At the time of the murder, I was 16 years old. Um, it's it's something. It is special. I'm blessed. She's changed me in so many ways, and she's the fuel to my vehicle. Basically, keeps me going. Um, yeah, she's a blessing. I was at home on the morning of the murder. I was sick that day. I you know, took the day off of school, so stayed home. My mother was home the morning of the murder. She actually checked on me to make sure I was okay, you know, feeling well. So, checking on me. Well, I actually saw it on the news, and my mom actually pulled me aside as well to, you know, ask me how I felt about it. I knew that she was, friends with Sean Gale, so to see something like that on TV was, a real big thing. So I had questions as well, but I didn't know how to approach my mom about it. So, all
Yes.
right. So on the morning of the murder, my mom was having problems with her battery. Sal actually brought a battery on his lunch break to, put in for her. My mother wasn't acting strange at all that morning. She was just, having trouble with her battery, basically. So yeah, we had a lot of friends, and my mom, she opened her doors to, basically a lot of our friends. We grew up in the city, so a lot of the, activities outside of a home, just basically, whether it's behind the school or in the neighborhood, it's you know, kids at that age, we would probably tend to get into some mischief, but my mom would rather have us at home so she can kind of like see what's going on. So, and we had a lot to do anyway, so it was pretty cool. And my mom, she had us in organized football. I know at an earlier age we were big in karate, and we used to travel from state to state, Florida, California, for competitions with the karate school. I remember that pretty well. And she had us playing instruments, music. So I used to play guitar. My brother and sister were actually on the piano. I can see my mom. She just really wanted to keep us busy, cause staying busy will kind of keep you out of trouble. So I could see why she did that. Oh, I got all the way to like second degree brown belt. That's like one right before black. And I know my mom was a black belt. I think my sister was a purple belt, and my brother was like a yellow belt. So yeah, we really worked our way up. It's pretty cool. I didn't take any interest in diving, but my brother and my mother, they both actually were into diving. They both got certified. I just really had no interest in it. Best moment. There was a lot of best moments. I know when the holidays rolled around, it was pretty tight there, and just us really having just a solid foundation and how much hard work my mom put in to just kind of raise us. And she was single, single mom with three kids, and she did her best, and she did a real good job at it. So yeah, I admire her for that. When my mom met Sean Gale, and I had a suspicion they were dating, but my mom liked to keep, her personal life and home life sort of separate, which is understandable. But I started noticing that, a lot of her time was more focused, with whatever business she had going on with Sean. Memorial Day 2007, we had a bunch of friends over, and after the barbecue, we noticed that there was some stuff missing from the house, and one of the items was my mom's 9mm firearm.
There.
I know he had some ties with some not so good people, and he was in a little bit of a situation that he needed to kind of pay off a debt. So, I found out later that he, took the firearm to basically pay off his debt. I know there was a scuba camera missing. My Xbox was missing. Um, but to come to think of it, I think the scuba camera was actually found, and if I remember correctly, I know that I think it was me that actually sold off the Xbox for some extra money. The first time the police had interaction with me was when they actually came to issue a warrant to search the house. And yes, that was the first time, that was my first run in with them. So at the time when the warrant was executed, it was about 5:30 a.m. in the morning, and I was asleep, and I was actually woken up by a police officer, and at the time, I was dealing a little bit of weed. So when I was woken up by this officer, I thought it was because of my activities. But after I, woke up and I got a glimpse of the back of his windbreaker, it said homicide, and I kind of put two and two together, and this must have been with whatever's going on with Sean Gale. After the raid, they stuck me in a police car unmarked, and told me that they didn't really tell me where we were going. They just said I had to go with them, and I was a little iffy about it, because I know that I was underage at the time, so minor, and I didn't know too much about law back then, and I asked them if I can have an attorney, and they told me, well, you're not in any trouble, so why would you need an attorney? So I kind of just went along with it, even though it didn't feel right. I mean, what am I gonna do at that time? They're telling me you gotta go with us, and I have to go with them, so I went with them. They took me to the Round Lake Park Police Department. I was at Round Lake Park Police Department for about the entire day. Could have been about 24 hours. Yeah, close to it. At the police department, it had to be about anywhere from 3 to 5 different officers during interrogation, and I know one of them was a juvenile officer that had introduced himself one time. They mentioned that he'd be present throughout the entire questioning, and like I said, he wasn't there. Introduced himself one time, and that was the last I saw him. I didn't have an attorney present during the questioning. I asked for an attorney multiple times because I felt like I was a suspect, and they kept reassuring me that I wasn't in any trouble, I wasn't a suspect, but you know, the energy I was picking up off the entire situation was, I was definitely a suspect. My mother wasn't present during the questioning, no.
None.
I had no clue where my mother was at the time it was going on. The police asked me a lot of questions, where my whereabouts the morning of the murder, where my mom had been, why wasn't I in school, and then after hours of me sort of just telling them the truth, it wasn't good enough for them. They actually moved me to another room with a couch and a telephone, and they told me to get some sleep. And I must have slept for 2 to 3 hours, and I actually picked up the telephone to see if I can dial out like any outgoing calls, and there was no dial tone. Um, and after I woke up, they brought me back to the interrogation room, and it was questioning, same questions all over again. So I felt trapped. I felt, that there was gonna be. I mean, I basically felt like there was no way out, and the only way to actually get up out of that situation would be to kind of start cooperating with them. They wanted the truth, and I was telling them the truth, and my truth wasn't good enough for them. The first time the police picked me up, they actually had me write a few different statements, and I felt like after writing about four different statements, they like cherry picked which one was like the best that suited them, I guess. And that's what it looked like. The very
Okay.
first time when they came and searched the house and picked me up after I got let out of interrogation, before I got let out, Sal actually showed up, and he came into the interrogation room, and I was bawling tears. I was crying because it was just so much to handle. It was such a serious situation that was going on at the time, and even he couldn't save me. We both actually cried. I was crying, and I was telling him, I was like, hey, you know I really want out of here. Can you please get me out of here? And it was so confusing at the time, being 16 and not really being in such a tough situation like this. I'm looking at him, he's a sheriff, and I'm looking at these other officers, they're officers too. And, he can't even save me. And he told me to just stay strong, and, we'll see what we can do to get you up out of the situation. And I was just very confused, very traumatized. You know, you know, police officers are supposed to be, somewhat of the good guys, and that's what was so confusing at the time, being so young. And after they took me out of interrogation, Sal left. I don't know where he went. Um, they took me to another police station where I reunited with my sister and my brother. And after being there for a short amount of time, we got dropped off some random strip mall, I guess near the area where whatever police department we were at. And then my grandfather and my grandmother actually met us there. And that's where the police, basically transferred us over into, you know, my grandmother and my grandfather's custody, whatever you want to say, you know. When I got back home, it looked like a hurricane had hit the inside of my house. Every room was flipped. There was holes in the floor in the living room. Um, the entire basement was flooded. Not sure how that happened. It didn't rain, and it was horrible. It was horrible. I felt so violated. I didn't even want to be there. I felt like I wanted to just go, everyone pick up, we go to a hotel somewhere and just kind of forget about the mess. So the entire basement was flooded. Um, we had a laundry room, there was a jacuzzi room, we had like a little living room set up. I had my room, there was a bathroom. The entire basement was flooded. It was horrible. The time they picked me up off of school grounds, there had been a white van that had been following me for a few weeks, and they stuck me in the white van and actually took me to a police station. Only reason why I got in the van is because the two officers that approached me, I had recognized them, and they only told me if we were gonna go for a spin around the block, literally. And that's the only reason why I got in the van with them. As soon as I got in the van with them, I said, "Hey, I thought we were going around the block," and they didn't answer me, and that's when I knew they had me, and they took me again somewhere far. Not sure if it was Round Lake Park Police Station, Deerfield. I have no clue. So when we finally arrived to the police station, I was in an interrogation room yet again, and they had put some evidence on the table that they said they found at the house, and also they slammed a bucket of concrete on the table and told me that my mom had dumped a firearm in the bucket of concrete and dropped it in a river somewhere. And what I was confused about is that at the time, I don't know if because I was a minor, they didn't think I'd understand, but I was under the impression that that was the bucket with the firearm in it. So, being older now, if they had the firearm in the in the cement bucket like they claimed, why do they have me in interrogation? Being older now and going back and remembering the tactics that they were using on me, it was just ridiculous. They took full advantage of me, and they saw a weak link in me, and yeah, they pushed on it. So after everything that I went through with task force and just the entire situation itself, I pretty much had a nervous breakdown, and I did land myself in a psych ward for about a month, and yeah, so I just I was on some medication, and after a month of being in there, the doctor said I was okay to be discharged off of the unit. So um, I felt suicidal. I didn't want to be dealing with all of this that was going on anymore. My perspective has changed on the way I look at police officers and just the justice system in general. It's a very corrupt system, and it's very sad to see that a lot of people get put away for a very long time for things that they didn't do, and you just really never come back from that. At the time, I didn't know I was dealing with the police department that had such an extensive track record for falsely convicting people and putting them away. And you know, looking at them now in this day, in this present day, they're absolutely ruthless, and it really makes me sick to my stomach. And when I say ruthless, I mean ruthless. Like they will destroy and whatever they want out of you, like they will get it. And it has completely changed my, look on the justice system, police officers in general. They just, you can't trust them. You can't. I am angry. I am hurt. And, you know, after coming out of this situation, in my, teenage years, 16, 17, 18, 19, all the way up until I was about 26, you know, going through such a traumatic experience like that, to where just having the thought that I could have been sitting in jail for a murder that I didn't do really had me acting out, you know, all through those years. I got in a lot of trouble and got involved with really, dangerous group of people. And, I've completely 360, you know, my life. I'm not that anymore. I had a criminal background. It's all wiped clean now. I'm real active in real estate, and I got some good things going on. Being in interrogation with this task force, they they really didn't want my truth. They wanted their truth, and their truth was to put this murder on somebody, whether it's me or my mom. And there was a time, there's a scene that's always playing in my head all the time that I'm always going to remember. You know, they finally got fed up to what I was actually, telling them, my truth, what was really the truth. And there was actually an officer that, came in, and he was fed up. He literally, like, slammed his hands on the table and told me that if I don't start talking, it's either going to be me to go to prison or my mother. And at that moment, I knew that, these officers, they wanted me to say it was my mom. And if I didn't, I was going to go to prison. And it just broke me. It broke me. I I knew the only way I was gonna get up out of that situation, get up out of that interrogation room, is basically start cooperating, and that's what I did. I started cooperating. So there came a time where the officer was just fed up at what I was telling him, and he stormed in and he literally slammed his hands on the desk and had told me, it's either going to be you or your mother that's going to go to prison if you don't start talking. And that's when I knew they didn't care who they were going to put this on. They wanted somebody. And that's when I started cooperating. I finally told the police that my mother wasn't home because that's what they wanted. I was my mother's alibi. I believe the task force didn't look too much into Sean because of his status as a celebrity. I don't feel that the officers that investigated this case should have been promoted. Um, with their track record, I just don't see how. I don't see how. I don't see how this is still going on. Um, their department. You know what I'm saying? I believe Sean Gale had something to do with it.